the experts, the people that are top in their game, they ignore boredom and keep going. Welcome to the 7-Day Soul TV and the A Tweak a Week podcast. If you are someone who wants to reach your full potential, who feels like you have more to give, who doesn't want to let your short time here slip through your fingers, then you finally found your tribe. I'm your host, psychologist and author Susanna Healy, and on this show, we'll be talking with expert researchers about all things psyche and soul so that you can achieve your full potential and live a life without regrets. To reach the better angels of our nature, we know the devil's in the detail of what we do repeatedly. So we'll be talking habits, existential health, bucket lists, meaning, mattering, sleep, self-actualization, responsibility, discipline, faith, procrastination, gratitude, goal setting, sex, focus, careers, and loads more. Let's inject the everyday with a passion for your potential. But before we start, just a reminder, if you like the show, then don't forget to subscribe. You can also get your free 100 tips for daily progress by visiting the 7daysoul.com homepage. Or if your workplace is all about human potential and you'd like to sponsor the show, then reach out to join us. Details are in the show notes. Hello and welcome back, everybody, to episode 2 of the A Tweak a Week podcast and 7-Day Soul TV. I'm your host, Susanna Healy, and thank you for joining me here again today. If this is your first episode you're watching and you haven't watched the first one, after this one, take a look at this one first and then hook back to the first and keep with us along the journey. We here are all about personal fulfillment. And really our personal potential. And an awful lot of the time when we talk about fulfilling our lives and chasing the dream and whatever, a lot of it in terms of advertising, it's as if we're kind of all supposed to be parachuting and white river rafting and all sorts of stuff like that. It's not about that at all. It's about fulfilling who you can be. And in mind, body, and spirit, because we're looking at it from a mind, body, and spirit point of view. So often when we talk about goals and personal potential, it's talking about improving your exercise, improving your running, your diet, that kind of stuff. But there's so much more to it. And some of the goals that we have should be to the benefit of other people, like increased compassion, increased charitable giving, or patience, or less narkiness, or whatever it might be. So some of them are deeply personal. You don't have to be jumping off anything with a parachute or anything else. So that's what we're all about here today. But today, I just want to talk today about habits and a little bit about the neurobiology of habits, because I found certainly when I understood it, it really helped me in terms of building the patience to keep going on particular goals that I had. And it is a matter always of reminding ourselves that what we do, we become. That's not a philosophy lesson. It's just fact. It also means that we are now what we've been doing. Oops. Yeah, so maybe time for change in a couple of areas, certainly with me, definitely. So just remembering that. And also, when we look at it this way, we actually kind of get energized about today, because today is a building block for what we want, whether they're big goals or small goals or whatever we want. Today is one of the building blocks, and we've got to get used to boredom. I always talk about finding meaning in the mundane, and, that's catchy. And what I'm talking about is kind of getting over boredom, because what I can tell you from all the kind of the quotes and the studies in terms of kind of the experts, the people that are top in their game, they ignore boredom and keep going. Now, if that's the only thing you come away with from today, that is really valuable. Ignore boredom, keep going. Really, really important lesson, because we're building habits and we are full of habits. Aristotle's, I love the classics, and Aristotle talked about kind of, habits reign supreme. They absolutely run the show. So that's why I want to talk about habits today, and we'll be talking about it. It's kind of a theme throughout all the episodes. I want to talk about them today because what we're talking about is building the right habits and maybe tweaking the habits that we've built up that we actually really, really want to change. So it's about a life of trying. But that makes life interesting. It is in the nitty gritty of the boringness of today and tomorrow and the next day when it feels really ordinary. That's where we make up the building blocks of what we want to become in the future. I also talk about it as eulogy living, that idea of kind of with the end in mind, working backwards to what you want to have been, what you want to have your life to have stood for. But again, in mind, body, and spirit. So things that might be invisible to others, or just felt by others, but aren't the showy, glitzy things. It's not the career or the money or the this, that, and the other. It's just a way of being. That needs to be worked on too, doesn't it? So really, really important. Also, you probably have heard that in order to kind of get to those goals, we need to make micro steps, really, really small steps. Now, if you're like me, I love the big dreamy stuff. I love the big goals. And it's not to let them go. Daniel Berman had a lovely quote. He said, make no small plans. They have no magic in them to stir men's souls. To stir men's souls. I love that phrase. What stirs your soul? Brilliant phrase. What excites you? Where do you find the time, no matter what's going on, that you actually do find the time, or you stay up late, or you get up early? Somehow you find the time for the things that are really meaningful to you. And if you're not finding the time, then definitely stay with us, because you've got to do that. That's your place in the world and where you need to be headed. But on the other hand, a lot of that kind of self-helpy stuff online is very much about hope, believe in yourself, dream big, da-da-da. Great, useful, but you also need to, it's not about dreaming, because they don't correlate with eventualities. They don't correlate with results. You have to do the reps. The reps, the reps, the reps. The reps, the reps, the reps. It's so boring. The reps. You've got to keep practicing over and over again what you want to become, what you want to be, and to be able to do, or to stop doing, or whatever it might be. So it's not just about dreaming and having lovely goals and pretty books and journals and all the rest of it. It's about doing the repetitions, and the really, really small repetitions. And actually, the smaller you can make them, what we also know is that the smaller you can make them, the more doable they are. The less likely a day is going to pass without you doing them. And what we want is near daily practice. As much as possible, it kind of depends on what you're doing, but as much as possible, near daily practice, because that way we're getting the reps in really, really repeatedly. So that's very, very important. And we also want to be reviewing morning and evening. You know, how many of us get up in the morning? It's very kind of project living, planned living, and it's quite exciting. It makes every ordinary day exciting, I think. If you get up and you decide, you remember to decide, that bit's difficult. But if you even remember to decide, how do I want to live today? What mood do I want to have? What attitude do I want to have? How do I want to treat people? What do I want to get done? And so on. It can change everything. Because otherwise we're in autopilot. I know I was kind of narky with the kids this morning, because I went into autopilot. I was tired. I was kind of, everything's rushed and you're trying to get everybody out the door, da-da-da. It's in autopilot. You know, so I would kind of, oh, okay, I need to remember that now. As soon as I go into the kitchen in the mornings, that's a trigger of, oh, careful, don't go into, that again, go into a new attitude, a new kind of bring a conscious awareness to it. So really, really important to wake up to what we're already definitely doing. And it's about winning the moment in front of our face. I love that phrase. It's from an Irish rugby coach, but it's, that phrase, win the moment in front of your face. It's not about making plans and diaries and pretty things and all the rest of pretty pictures. Just right now, what can you do to improve yourself right now? And actually, if you want to subscribe, you'll get a kind of a list of 100 things that you can do today, right now, to bring yourself, move forward and kind of fall forward as we talk about. So what we're talking about is nudging the niggles, creating niggles, and decreasing the friction as much as we can. Now, it's a really big topic that we'll go over, and I'll go into friction in and of itself in another episode. But we're looking for routine. That's what we want to build, and that's how we build new habits. Because any habit is made up of a cue, which should lead to a craving. And that's what you really want, because otherwise, we can get triggered by things like it might be a person, it might be company that you keep, it might be a place that just bugs you, or it's too untidy and makes you stressed, or it might be a time of day, or it might be hunger, or whatever it might be. But if you can use it positively, or even just if it's negative and you want to undo a habit, actually becoming aware of what the cue is. It might be that you're great with your diet all day long, and then actually nighttime it all goes to pot because you're actually tired and you don't have the good foods in the fridge or whatever it might be. Or it might be the people that you're keeping company with and they just bring out the worst in you. And, slagging or being cruel about other people or whatever is just part of the conversation, and it brings out the worst in you. And you kind of know maybe that's got to stop. But what you want is that a cue that triggers a craving. So the behavior is the behavior that you're trying to actually create a new habit, or indeed to actually undo a habit, and then the reward. And that's how it goes. A-R-D, reward. So if you do the behavior and get the reward for it, so it might be, just say it is something like going out running, and you don't feel like it at the beginning, but once you get the reward of feeling really good, or guilt-free TV for the evening, or letting yourself watch social media for another hour or so, whatever it might be, because you've done what you wanted to do, these two become connected, but so does the craving. So you end up craving the feeling of the reward. You end up craving the reward. So before it's even happened, you kind of feel it. It might be like, that lovely feeling if you've been out for a run and you feel good afterwards. Maybe you're all kind of like hot and sweaty, and you're breathing kind of heavily. And, but it feels good. You feel great. And you feel like, yeah, I did it again and it's done and I feel better. And actually now I don't feel like messing it up by eating badly either, and whatever it might be. And it kind of triggers all sorts of other good behaviors as well. Virtue kind of creates that, other cycles as well. So small wins lead to other wins as well. And that's very much a theme through creating habits. But what you're trying to do is to crave the reward. It might be, I can't wait to lie on that couch, or whatever it might be, or to have listened to something while I was out for my walk, or whatever it might be. But you're craving that sense of, or not doing something like, do you know something? Maybe people are calling you out to go for a drink and you're trying to cut down on alcohol intake. And you say once, no, I'm not, sorry, not available tonight, not doing it tonight. That's the behavior that you need. The rest is gone. Once the decision moment, the decision window is is your real challenge. After that, they've gone. They're probably not going to keep asking you again. So all you need to do is manage that little decision window. And that decision window, if you're able to say no, then the reward is, I did it. Now, what am I going to do to enjoy myself now? To relax and reward myself. So it might be kind of like undoing a habit, or it might be creating a habit. What you're doing is but it is important to get that sense of craving for the reward that you're looking for that comes after the behavior. Watch your cues as well, as I mentioned. Watch your places, your spaces, the people that you're hanging around with, your time of day, your moods, and states and that kind of thing. Being really, really careful of that. And also remember, because the way that feeling of like, yeah, it was a great idea on paper, but I don't really feel like it. One thing that I would suggest you just remind yourself on that is that moods are very temporary. And of course, the more we move, inertia breeds inertia, but movement breeds movement. So if you remember that actually, okay, well, if somebody were to tell me I've just won a lottery, or if someone were to tell me, ask me out on a date, or if something that's important to you, if somebody were to kind of say, do you know something, if you want to present tomorrow, you've got a chance of putting yourself forward for a great promotion or something like that, whatever it might be, you'd suddenly find the time, you'd suddenly find the energy, and you'd be excited for yourself, wouldn't you? So realizing that actually a mood isn't, sometimes we kind of think, it's because I'm tired, it's because I've worked all day, it's because it's midweek, it's a long way to the weekend, it's because it feels like a given, but they're not givens, because they change like that if you get the right news, or perhaps the wrong news, they will change as well. So realizing they're not at all stuck states, and you can change them, and realize you would find the time if there was something exciting happening. So realizing that and remembering, okay, I can actually move myself out of this as well. Something else to just remember in terms of habits. Again, I found this really useful to understand. In terms of habits are chunks of behavior, we tend to kind of think of, okay, I want to be more patient. I want to be more on time more often. I want to be more productive. I want to run more, whatever it might be. And we always think of the goal as just that little thing, the behavior. In the brain, it's stored as cue, craving, behavior, reward. So remember that it's stuck as a little chunk of pieces of information. That's how it's stored in the brain. So while you think you might be a free agent, we're absolutely not. We are full of habits, and some of them fine, and we don't need to change them. But that's how they're stored, and they are stored by the brain. The brain loves habits. Why? Because it takes less glucose for the brain, for us, to do the same thing today as we did yesterday. I might have said that before, but it's really important to say anyway. It takes less glucose to go into autopilot for the brain. So from an evolutionary point of view, really clever stuff. We just make this a little chunk piece of action that's kind of like cue, oh yeah, I'm in this situation, I do this, and this happens afterwards. Little chunk, and we get sent into autopilot. So we're not really thinking, we're not conscious anymore. So we need to be kind of really aware of that, because it's very clever, and the brain is programmed to do it because it's efficient in energy saving. So really, really clever. But the way it does it, what happens is that when we're learning a habit, it takes an awful lot of effort, and it takes us to go way past the boredom threshold, to keep going when others give up. That's the secret, to keep going when others give up. If you fail, no problem, start again, or continue, because you won't be just starting again, because the brain will have registered what you've already done. So you're not starting again, actually. But what happens then is that when it's done repeatedly, it goes from the kind of the part of the brain that is more about effort into the part of the brain called the basal ganglia. It's kind of like a golf ball size thing in the brain, center of the brain, and it's stored there and again as an autopilot kind of auto behavior type thing. But in terms of, this is what really helped me many years ago. If we were to think of all the neurons in the brain and body, and they do basically everything for us, our thinking, our behaviors. So we have behaviors, remember, in mood and thinking and attitudes and opinions, as well as doing. But just say you wanted to, say it was something to do with, I always use the example of kind of when I learned to cover my mouth when I yawn. Wasn't born, I was a blank slate when it comes to covering my mouth when I yawn. Wasn't a very polite baby. But my parents told me to cover my mouth. And so a set of neurons related to covering my mouth, the thought, oh, I better cover my mouth, connected the brain down into my hand, and my hand went up to cover my mouth eventually when I was told. And then they had to tell me, because I didn't learn very quickly, they told me, again, Susanna, cover your mouth when you yawn. And so again, the corresponding set of neurons to lift my hand over to my mouth fired off their electrical and chemical message, and I lifted my hand to my mouth. And they said it again and again and again, over and over again, until eventually it became like a well-worn path. If you think of it a bit like a field of tall grass, and it's really tall grass, and it's quite an effort to push through. If you have to go from this side to the other side, it's quite an effort to get to the other side of the field. You have to bit of effort to push through, because there's resistance, there's friction. If you go through it today, then tomorrow you'll have trampled down a bit of the grass, won't you? So it's a little bit easier, maybe only a tiny bit easier tomorrow. But then if you do it on day 3, it's a little bit easier again, because again, there's a bit of it kind of like it's trampled through, as it were. You've trampled down the grass, there's less resistance, and you get there quicker because it's just that little bit easier. In the same way, there's a saying in psychology, neurons that fire together, wire together. It's called Hebbian learning, but it's neurons that fire together, wire together. Really, really catchy phrase. But it means that neurons that are constantly firing together, they eventually get hardwired together, and you get this kind of solidified path. So it becomes much, much more likely, it becomes an automated behavior. It's much more likely that this set of neurons will fire off, and I'll cover my mouth. I'm right-handed, so I'll cover my mouth that way. Much more likely than this, which would require my left hand, which would be much more effortful for me. This is the basis, the neurological basis of why, professional athletes train over and over again, because they're trying to automate the right putt, kick, shot, hit, whatever it might be. They're trying to automate it so that on competition day, when they're stressed and there's other stuff going on and there's lots of other neurons that are just anxiety firing off, these neurons, the set of neurons relating to their perfect kick, shot, putt, whatever, are going to fire off and give them that perfect shot. So that is what they do. But it's also the neurobiological background to all the behaviors that we have. And a lot of them start with our cue, with our trigger. I'm with so-and-so, this is how I am. I'm in such and such a place, or it's the end of the day, this is what I do. They're hardwired in there. But it is possible to break them. And it's called neural pruning. They do. You can either change them or you can break them. Sometimes are kind of create new ones. So we've got loads of these. It's not just one. We've got loads and loads of these connections in the brain in what's called the basal ganglia. And sometimes it's easier to actually just tweak something a little bit to one direction. So it might be, instead of actually kind of having a whole new healthy diet, it might be better to actually add healthy food to whatever you're already eating. And that makes you kind of feel better. It makes you feel cleaner, but it doesn't make you feel like you're sacrificing anything yet. You just begin to feel better. And then you might let go of some of the other stuff. So those are kind of things that it's easier sometimes to tweak a little bit than it is to actually get rid of something completely. So it might be if you're reaching for the bad stuff, maybe have good stuff on the table. Will it be as nice? No. But it's just part of it is just that the habit of reaching for food, or kind of something on the desk or whatever it might be. So I think that's kind of like really, really important and kind of useful. And hopefully it's useful to you because you just kind of begin to remember, I know this is hard, but I'm pushing through that grass and I'm building up these neurons that are going to fire together automatically. And I'm going to keep going until it becomes automatic. And that's what's kind of really exciting, I think, and important. So importantly, today matters. We are products of all our yesterdays, and it all builds up because time builds up. And like last week probably just went like that. And so did the week before, and so did yesterday. And it just keeps going. So, in terms of living with the end in mind, in terms of living to really inhabit our full potential, this is what we need to we need to become aware of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to become, what we're trying to trigger, maybe more patience, more kindness, more forgiveness, more humor, whatever it might be. Do small things is kind of important as well, so that you can't fail. So as much as possible, do the small things, so that they become wins, and that is much more addictive. It's so important. A lot of people do a kind of a to-do list, and really it should be a today list and a today list. So it should be, a to-do list and a today list, so that they're two different things. Because chances are you're just using your to-do list as a memo pad. But it might be in your diary for today. And then you go home feeling rotten because you didn't get half of it done, but you hadn't a hope of getting half of it done. There was no point writing it down. It was really just a memo pad. So if you're doing that, maybe try doing, I'm going to get realistic about what I'm going to do today. And then I'm going to have a kind of a memo pad for what I need to get done. And if I can get more and more if I can get to the stage where I actually fulfill everything I say I'm going to do on my to-do today list, then you go home or you close the laptop if you're already at home, feeling good. And that's much more satisfying. You feel like that was a win, and you're feeling so much better for the rest of your evening. So kind of really important stuff to just kind of remember. Small wins really mount up, but they move the needle so much more than setting yourself up for failure. So very, very important stuff. All right. I hope that's been helpful to you. I hope that you've enjoyed the second episode. As I say, in a next, maybe not the next episode, the one after that, we'll be getting into interviews with other researchers and experts in the various areas of human potential, mind, body, and spirit. Please do let me know what you'd like to hear about, what topic you're maybe working on, maybe your experiences to date, and what you're striving for, and what matters to you in mind, body, or spirit. But if you'd like to subscribe, you can subscribe on the homepage of 7daysoul.com, and you'll get that list of 100 things to make today matter and to move forward today, because we're all about kind of moving forward little by little by little. But until episode number 3, which will be this time next week, look after yourselves and each other. Take care. Bye-bye.